Hello, French learners! Today we are going to show you exactly how to start thinking in French using simple daily habits that will turn your internal monologue into a version française. Let's dive in.
You know that painfully relatable feeling, right? You're right in the middle of a conversation. You actually know the vocabulary, you've studied the grammar, but then suddenly, you just freeze, completely blocked, mid-sentence. And why does that happen? Well, it's because you're desperately trying to translate a thought from English or your native language into French inside your head before you actually speak. Honestly, it's exhausting, isn't it?
Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going to fix exactly that problem. I am super excited to share a very concrete roadmap with you today. This is pulled straight from expert language educators and polyglots, and it's designed to help you totally stop translating and finally start thinking directly in French. You know, like a native speaker actually does. Okay, let's take a quick look at the agenda. First, we'll talk about how to stop translating in your head. Then we'll uncover the polyglot success formula. Learn to create direct French triggers, weave French into your daily routines, and finally, speak, fail, and improve. This is your step-by-step guide to rewire your brain. All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Stop Translating in Your Head. We really need to talk about the problem with mental translation.
Let's just acknowledge the painful reality here. Trying to translate in real time, it's clunky, it's artificial, and it literally leads directly to those frustrating speaking blocks we just talked about. The core problem is what we call the translation trap. Going from an English word, running it through your mental dictionary, and then spitting out a French word is just way too slow. In a natural conversation, you simply do not have the time for that middle step. The direct method, on the other hand, completely bypasses English. It connects an image, a thought, or an emotion directly to the French word.
And to make matters worse, trying to translate literal phrases just flat out doesn't work. Languages aren't perfectly symmetrical, you know? Like, if you translate "how old are you" word for word into French, you end up with "comment vieux es-tu?" That sounds completely bizarre to a French speaker. They would naturally say "quel âge es-tu?", which literally means "what age have you?" So when you translate, you're practically inviting these awkward errors.
Moving right along to Section 2, the polyglot success formula. Let's look at the mindset of a successful language learner.
So, let's see how the world's best language learners do it. I'm talking about polyglots, people who speak 5, 6, or even more languages. How on earth do they pull that off? Well, the key is they develop what's called conscience linguistique, or language awareness. Instead of treating language like a math problem or, memorizing isolated words out of a dictionary, they focus intensely on how words are used in context. They learn whole phrases and really pay attention to how a native speaker would actually interpret their message.
Now check this out. The secret really lies in the Berlitz polyglot formula. Your success in a language equals your motivation plus the time you spend immersed in it divided by your inhibition. And that last part, that is absolutely massive. The lower your inhibition, meaning the less you fear making mistakes, the faster you learn. Polyglots aren't magically fearless. They just absolutely refuse to let the fear of sounding a little silly stop them from practicing.
All right, let's get into Section 3, Create Direct French Triggers. This is all about bypassing your native language entirely.
Now that we've got the right mindset, let's dive into the core cognitive tool you're going to use to bypass English triggers. You've got 3 simple steps here. First, identify an image, situation, or emotion. Second, actively refuse to think of the English translation. And third, connect that visual or feeling directly to the French word. By doing this, you're forcing your brain to connect French directly to your real-world experiences, which is literally how a toddler learns their first language.
Let's make this super concrete with an example. Say you see a dog walking down the street. Picture the actual animal, the fur, the tail, the bark, and immediately attach the word chien. Do not, under any circumstances, let the English letters DOG cross your mind. It sounds basic, but this simple mental exercise stops the translation trap dead in its tracks by forcing that direct visual association.
And you can build these triggers in a few really powerful ways. Visual triggers link words straight to images or objects. Situational triggers happen when you basically narrate your life, like quietly whispering, "Je prépare mon café," while you make breakfast. Emotional triggers connect physical feelings, like shivering because it's cold, directly to a phrase like "il fait glacial." Oh, and contextual triggers? Swapping to a 100% French dictionary is an absolute game changer. It forces your brain to understand a word through a French description rather than just giving you the English equivalent.
Okay, moving to Section 4, French in Daily Routines. The motto here is change your language, not your life.
The beauty of this method is so simple. You really don't need to add 3 hours of heavy studying to your day. You just weave French immersion right into the habits you already have. Wake up at 7, do a little internal narration. 8 a.m., throw on a French podcast while eating the breakfast you were already going to eat. 1 p.m., use a French recipe to cook your lunch. 9 p.m., jot down 3 quick lines in a journal before bed. Boom, you've created a constant environment of language and you didn't even change your schedule.
So, here are some rapid-fire, highly actionable tips you can literally do right this second. Switch your smartphone and computer over to French. Go like a brand new YouTube account dedicated strictly to French content so the algorithm serves you an immersive all-French experience. Follow your actual passions, gaming, makeup, cooking, whatever, but follow French creators. Write your grocery lists in French. These little micro habits force your brain to engage with the language natively every single day.
The author James Clear totally hit the nail on the head when he said, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." By making your everyday life your learning system, French naturally just becomes your everyday language. You're not just studying it, you're actually living it.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Speak, Fail, and Improve. It's time to take your French into the real world.
All right, let's get into the most important step. Taking that leap from just thinking in French to actually speaking it out loud with others. Now, we've talked a lot about internal practice, right? Thinking quietly, narrating your day, talking to yourself in the shower where it's totally safe. That stuff is fantastic for building reflexes without any pressure. But external practice, that is where true fluency is put to the test and refined. You absolutely have to engage in real conversations.
And this brings us right back to that polyglot formula. The ultimate secret here is lowering your inhibition. You've got to be willing to speak, to stumble, to make mistakes, and to sound imperfect. Because honestly, the only people who never make mistakes in a new language are the ones who never try to speak it at all.
But wait, here's the catch. You've built this great habit of thinking in French, you're narrating your day, you're bravely speaking out loud, but who is actually correcting your real-world mistakes? Thinking in French is only half the battle, guys. If you don't want to accidentally cement bad habits or broken grammar into your brain permanently, you desperately need an external guide.
So here is the ultimate takeaway for you today. Once you've practiced in your head using all these methods, you have to step into the real world and practice with a teacher or a tutor. Having that one-on-one interaction, it's a total game changer. A teacher will gently correct your mistakes, explain the subtle nuances you missed, and really polish your French. You've put in the internal work. Now go find a teacher who can help you perfect it. Seriously, I challenge you. What is one daily habit you can switch to French right now, and when are you booking your first practice session with a teacher? Get out there and start speaking.
I want to encourage you to book a one-on-one conversation lesson with me. In these personalized sessions, we take all the method and tips we just talked about, put them into active practice. I'll be there to help you correct your word order in real time. I'm going to leave you with this beautiful French proverb. C'est en forgeant que l'on devient forgeron. Practice makes perfect.